Welcome everyone to Praggnanandhaa taking on Anton Demchenko in the final round of the Chess Olympiad 2024. Pragg opens the game with 1d4. Demchenko, a strong player now representing Slovenia, he's rated 2597 and he responds back with d5. Pragg has had a pretty solid event at the Chess Olympiad and he will be looking to sign this off with a win. His opponent captures the pawn, the Queen's Gambit accepted, something that Pragg likes to play also with the black pieces. Knight comes out to f3, knight to f6 played by his opponent, and now a common move is e3 to pick up the pawn on c4. That's what Pragg does, plays his pawn to e3. e6 by Demchenko. Let's see what Pragg has up his sleeve. He takes on c4, adjusts his king, presses the clock. c5 played by his opponent. And now there are two ways for white to play. One is to take, the other is not to take and accept an isolated pawn. Pragg for now castles it out and his opponent plays knight c6, putting pressure on the pawn on d4. Knight comes out to c3. Very standard stuff here. And now Demchenko plays a6, a useful move. Later you can expand with b5 if needed. Bishop comes back to d3. Now an important move because Pragg could be preparing e4 at some point. Takes, pawn takes, and clearly you cannot win this pawn because after take there is bishop b5 check and you lose the queen. So he goes bishop e7, trying to finish off his development. Pragg puts his bishop on a very active square on g5 and black just castles. It's quite difficult right now to connect the rooks because the queen, if it moves, then the d4 pawn is hanging. But he plays rook to e1, a useful move on the e file. And now Demchenko plays knight to d5. It was also possible to play b5 with the idea of bishop b7, but he goes knight d5 and Pragg now is thinking about his move. What should he play here in this position? He goes h4 and I love this move. He's basically saying if you take here, I can take back with the pawn, cramping your structure. h6 played by Anton. Questioning the bishop, taking seems like the best option. But Pragg first takes on d5. Interesting move. Because if you take here, then after knight takes e7, white is just winning. So queen takes d5 played. And now bishop e4, attacking the queen, also the knight. It seems like white has the initiative here. Anton comes back, queen to d6. And now bishop e7 will be met with knight e7 and slowly black will try to unravel, but Pragg says, I'm just coming back. You have less space and I'm keeping my pieces on the board. So bishop e3 is on the board. Bishop d7 played by Demchenko and rook d8, bishop e8. This could be the ideas that he's angling for. Queen comes up to d2. Threatening to sacrifice something on h6, but f5 played. Wow, the game gets exciting now because now the e6 pawn has been weakened. First he attacks the queen, maybe not needed, he could have gone directly bishop c2 to e6, attack e6 there, but bishop f4, and now Demchenko plays his queen to b4. And Pragg has to trade queens now because his bishop is also attacked. So he goes bishop c2 and now Anton can take the queen. He takes, bishop takes, and although e6 is weak, d4 is also weak and e6 can be defended. So it seems like the worst is over for black. Bishop comes out and attacks here. How is Pragg going to try to fight for an advantage? Well, he first goes rook a d1, an important move because after take, you have bishop f4 and then this is a big problem here. So that's the reason why taking here won't be any good. He goes rook a d8 and Pragg plays his bishop to f4. White still has this slightly more active position, but bishop e8 is what Anton tries, and his point is that now he has 3 attackers here, and Pragg goes and chops off the e6 pawn. How good is this exchange? Knight takes d4 played. I think it has helped black. Knight takes and rook takes on the board, attacking the bishop and putting pressure here. He takes, bishop takes is on the board. The position is roundabout even. Rook e7 played here. Well, can we just simply take the pawn on b2 as well? Instead he goes bishop c6, which seems like a stronger move here. Pragg tries to trade off the bishops with bishop e5, and I think what Pragg essentially is saying that I have some pressure here, it's not so easy for you to defend. I think f4 makes a lot of sense, but g6 played, and his only hope for something is to play h5, and that's what Pragg does. h5 is on the board. If you take here, I can go rook f5, but this position is kind of okay for black. He goes, yeah, he takes the pawn, and now will Pragg take with the rook or the bishop? He takes with the bishop. So white now has a very small edge in terms of pawn structure, but black has a very solid structure on the queen side and an active bishop. The rook is also moving in with a check and to d2. So bishop e6 check. And then king to g7 played. And now if you take the pawn on h5, which Pragg has done, the problem is a check on d1. Yes, check. King h2, and now rook d2 with a double attack on b2 and f2. So it's on the board, and I like how Pragg has tried to protect his f2 pawn, because that is a passer here on the board. So rook takes b2 and Pragg goes g4. You know, in terms of converting equal positions, Magnus Carlsen is the best in the world, but if there's someone who can come a bit close to him, it's actually Praggnanandhaa. He's very, very good at these grinding these little advantages. He goes up king g3, and one of the big things you have to learn when grinding equal endgames is patience. You have to be patient. Bishop b3, sometimes it might seem you're making no progress, but actually there's a lot of progress being made. b5 played, and Pragg goes rook to c5, improving the position of the rook, aiming to give a check here. Rook comes back to e7, trying to stop those, and can we push now f4? Seems like a good time. f4 is on the board. King comes up to f6, and now Pragg, what is his move going to be? He plays rook to c8, pawn to a5, and now rook to b8. The rook comes from behind, check, and can we go upwards here? Is it safe? Well, he plays it. He plays his king to h4. It looks safe. But now a4. We are past move 40 now. Both players have got 30 minutes on the clock. The game is still equal. Demchenko plays pawn to a4. He is actually resisting pretty well here. Bishop to d5. And now king goes back to e7. Pragg plays pawn to f5. Demchenko is not too worried because the white king is blocked from coming in. Rook e5. So there's no king g5, there's no king h5. And somehow that has to be resolved. First a check. He goes back king f8, and that is a big error. Maybe king d6, and this would have been very good, keeping the rook active. But now after king f8, Pragg has a winning position. The move that he has to find now is bishop e6. He first writes down his opponent's move. He knows that this is a moment where he must gather his thoughts carefully. He finds it. Beautiful move. The problem now is that if you go rook e1 trying to come here, a3, it doesn't help because the king is cut off. And so here he goes rook e4, but Pragg can just go rook h7 to h6. Rook h7 is on the board, attacking the pawn. b4 played here by Anton. And now Pragg checks. The point is, if you take here, there is king g7 and the rook does not have a good square to go, but a check is very useful because after king e7 now you take, and this is now easy. b3 played. Pragg is completely winning here, and the tables turned very quickly within a matter of couple of moves. He takes the pawn. Yeah, ab3 and a3 played by Anton. And Pragg now, being very careful, gives a check. His win could actually seal the deal for Team India here. King f6, he goes back behind the pawn. And now the pawn is falling. There's no way to protect the pawn. Bishop b5 played. Pragg is going to take it. Yes, he takes the pawn on a3. Goes bishop e2, hoping for some attack on the g4 pawn. But rook a4 just does the trick. And Pragg is now 3 pawns up with a completely winning position. Anton resigns. Pragg scores a very important win for himself and his team, which helps India win the gold medal at the Chess Olympiad 2024. A very, very intense and interesting endgame grind by Pragg.